Whether you have 30 minutes or an entire afternoon, my goal is to help you put something delicious on the table that your family will love. I decided to make this dish because my husband works outside in the Texas heat, and he came to me asking me if I could make something that's cold rather than hot, because I originally would just give him whatever we had left over from the night before. When he talked to me about it, I was like, wait, this actually kind of makes sense, because I can't think of anything more miserable than sitting outside in over 100-degree weather and eating something that is also over 100 degrees. In order to make this higher in protein, I had this grand idea to blend up some cottage cheese with the Caesar dressing to hopefully give it a little bit more protein. But honestly, it wasn't my favorite. I don't know, there was something about it that maybe made the Caesar dressing a little bit more muted, but my husband loved this very much. I asked him what his favorite meal from these entire things, and he couldn't really give me an answer, but he did say he very much so loved this. So I really think it's worth a try if you are interested in a higher protein dish, because you might end up liking it. One thing to note is for the pasta, you need to cook it a little bit more than al dente, because when it's chilling in the fridge, the pasta will end up firming up. I accidentally didn't cook it long enough. I cooked it just whatever time the box said, and it ended up being a little bit more chewy, but like I said, my husband didn't mind. He loved it. But for me personally, I don't want that bite to it. I would rather just have it a little bit more soft, so keep that in mind. I'm really glad my husband did like this dish, because one thing about pasta dishes, it is like they multiply before your eyes. No matter what type of pasta I make, it seems like I always make enough for 5 armies. Mistake I made is I did rinse my pasta under cold water before I put it in here, and I did learn after I did that it's better to not rinse it, because the starch helps the sauce actually stick to the pasta noodles better. I didn't know that. I was just trying to cool it off and get that thing going, but apparently that's what it does. And another thing is it says that it's better to not let it cool, because while it's hot, it absorbs more of the dressing and it makes it taste better in the end. I did not know that, so that's something I'm definitely going to have to try out next time. Added more lettuce, and the reason I did that is because we had way too much dressing going on, and it was like overpowering the entire dish. So we ended up adding like a whole bunch of lettuce to try to kind of balance it out, and we added some onions and everything just to try to get this thing going. But as you can see, it still looks like there's like so much dressing. So if you make this, don't be like us. Maybe use half the jar or not. I mean, some people like it saucy. So make your pasta salad how you like it at your house, because I mean, nobody's going to be eating it but you. I'm not a huge fan of croutons, but when I tell you my husband was eating those out the bag like they were a bag of chips, he said that it added a great texture. Tater tot casserole is one of those tried and true recipes that you can never go wrong with. If you've never had it, I promise you're going to be surprised, because it really does look like it's just thrown together mush, but it is so delicious every single time. My foster mom growing up is the one who introduced me to this dish, and she has had a lot of kids coming in and out of her house in the 30 years that she's been a pastor's wife, and she's never had a kid not like this. I'm telling you, kids see tater tots and they're like, this is for me. I love it. You know, I definitely suggest baking the tater tots ahead of time. I know that seems like an unnecessary pan that you have to wash and an unnecessary step, but it really does make a difference in the overall texture of the dish. It makes the tater tots way more crispy, and it gives it that great texture that everybody knows and loves. So do not skip that step. I've seen people on TikTok talk about how they can never get theirs to turn out right. The tater tots are never crispy. You have to cook them before. It's a non-negotiable. It is completely necessary. I'm so sorry, but it is worth it. I promise you. Honestly, I know it seems like I'm being heavy-handed with the seasonings, but even still, I don't think I seasoned it enough. Like, after it was all said and done, of course it was delicious. You know, it's always delicious, but I do feel like it needed a little salt. I think that I should have probably put salt on the tater tots, and I literally thought that to myself when I was putting the tater tots in the oven, that I was going to put salt on them whenever they came out, and I completely forgot. So I would suggest doing that, as well as once you make this sauce, I would taste it to make sure that it has enough flavor, because I ended up adding cauliflower to it, and the cauliflower kind of waters down the flavor. So you want to make sure that it is flavorful enough. Another non-negotiable is make sure that when you put this flour in here, that you cook the flour until you see no more white. Because if you do not, you're going to have a weird grainy flour taste in your food. So just make sure that you cook it for a minute or so, and you mix it around and make sure there's no flour bits left over. I did 2 tablespoons of flour, I believe, and then like I eyeballed the milk, but honestly, I think it was about 2 cups. If you like your stuff a little bit creamier, I would suggest doing heavy cream or half and half instead of milk. Milk is just what we had. I completely forgot to get half and half, but I would probably prefer half and half. It gives it like that creaminess flavor, and it's so delicious. Also, normally I would have cooked with the onions some mushrooms, but you know, Walmart mushrooms seem to have like a shelf life of like 10 seconds and they were moldy, so I had to throw them away, unfortunately, because basically what you're making is a cream of mushroom soup. Whenever you mix the flour and the milk and all that stuff together, you're making a cream of mushroom. It tastes 100 times better than the can. I know you're going to want to cut corners and be like, let me just get the cream of mushroom from a can. Please do not do that. This tastes so much better with homemade cream of mushroom. I promise you the extra step is worth it. I guarantee that you probably have milk and flour in your cabinet and in your fridge. So please, I implore you to at least try it with from scratch cream of mushroom before you even think of using a can. Please, I beg you. If you know your kid will refuse to eat this because of the cauliflower in there, I am just a weirdo who has decided to do that because I have PCOS and I need the fiber because this dish is very heavy without any sort of vegetable. I know sometimes people put green beans in there, and I think that would probably be more kid friendly. I feel like kids like green beans, but for me, I prefer the cauliflower in there, and it doesn't really add much flavor. It doesn't taste like anything really, so I mean, that's fine with me. But if your kids can sniff out a vegetable and the only vegetable they like is green beans, by all means put green beans in there or leave it out. I promise you this dish is one of those ones that is very versatile and will taste good regardless. I just have an adult palate, and so I need the vegetables in there. And yeah, but look at that, look how delicious that looks. This is one of those meals that is effortlessly delicious and a very filling meal. If you're from the South, everybody knows about chicken and gravy, you know what I mean, or smothered chicken. Everybody knows about it because it's just a staple in most of our households, and it's so good. Everybody has their own ways of making it, and this is just a quick and easy, simple way to make it in the Instant Pot. I'm going to be honest, the Instant Pot has changed my life. I love this thing down. I was honestly terrified of it for the longest, and I refused to get one because just the idea of steam blowing up in my face makes me want to cry. But I finally got one because me and my husband were supposed to become over-the-road truck drivers. Obviously, that did not work out, but that's a story for another time. But I ended up getting it for that, and I was like, I paid money for this thing, so I'm going to get some use out of it. And ever since then, I use this thing at least once a week. So if you have not bought one, I highly, highly recommend. I will link it down below. I'll put like what size you should get based off of the number of people in your family. Okay, so searing the chicken is not necessary, but I highly recommend it. I think it adds like a nice flavor, and some of the seasoning will get stuck to the bottom, and when I put the onions in there and deglaze the bottom, it will flavor the onions in such a beautiful way, and it is so delicious. So I mean, like I said, if you really are short on time, you do not have to do this step. It will still be delicious, I promise you that. But I like to do it, and I pretty much do it most of the time. So do with that information what you will. You can serve this dish either over rice or over mashed potatoes. I think mashed potatoes is super delicious, but I feel like that's like one of those things that's a little bit more effort to do. I ended up doing rice for this because I just used the Instapot and made rice. And like I said, I have PCOS, and so I learned something called like resistant starch, where you can put the rice in the refrigerator to let it cool down, and then your blood sugar like reacts less to it or something. So I tried that out, and I did that, and so I made the rice in this Instapot prior to starting this, and then I just put it in the fridge, and then I cleaned out the Instapot and started it in here. This meal honestly takes probably about 30 minutes from the prep of like searing the chicken and then it being in the Instapot. I think it was in the Instapot for probably a total of like 25 minutes, honestly. Then you just got to shred it up, and then it's like done. So it's so easy. I promise you, it'll save you so much time. Like, we got to bring back all of the meals and recipes that our grandparents and our parents used to make back in the day, because I know there's no way that they were sitting up here just cooking for hours and hours and hours, because there's no way. I just refuse to believe that. You're probably thinking to yourself, why is this girl scraping up all these onions and garlic? You have to do this because if you do not, they're going to stick and burn at the bottom. And so I just try to scoop everything up and put it on top of the chicken as best I can to just try to avoid it burning. I will tell you that the butter that I'm about to put in there, that I did use unsalted butter, because there are a lot of components in this dish that are salty. That au jus gravy mix is salty. I did use some chicken bouillon instead of chicken broth, and that is salty. I also used salt and Tony's on the chicken breast, and so I decided to use unsalted butter. But like I said, do what you will, but you know, I didn't want there to be like 50 components of salty in this meal. Another thing is make sure that you cook the chicken for the thickness of the chicken, because I accidentally didn't cook it long enough, and so my chicken was not like tender at all, and so I ended up having to put it in there for 5 more minutes. I think I did like 10 minutes, and then I ended up having to put it in there for another 5 because it was not shredding like I wanted it to shred. Look how delicious this looks. Like when I tell you, it was so warm and cozy and just love it.